Welcome back to the Reidel Law Firm YouTube channel. Today I have just some personal commentary about some stuff I've seen that worries me. It's kind of scary. This might be controversial, but I want to chat with it, share thoughts. Maybe someone will find it interesting. And that is about capital controls. I am of the belief that capital controls are coming to the United States. So part of my practice is handling international trade. And within that, as a subsect, is like sanctions, anti-money laundering compliance across borders. And from that world, I am privy to things happening that you don't see in the mainstream media, right? So the kind of rules that they're enforcing on banks, the types of moves that the government is making in regards to collecting information, both overseas and domestically, and even some of the big stuff now, like what we talked about in the recent past was the Corporate Transparency Act, that now every small business in the United States has to file a ownership report to the federal government to tell them who owns their business and all the details about that, who the owners are, where they're from, what they're doing, stuff like that. It's crazy. None of this stuff existed ever until very recently, and certainly not before 9/11. So I see all of these things happening. Now, some of the stuff that may have caught your attention in the mainstream media is some of the rules now being placed on investments inside the United States by foreign companies in particular, or even foreigners. In particular, the focus has been on China, right, and not allowing certain Chinese entities or Chinese individuals to purchase land or buy businesses that are near military installations or sensitive national security sites, things like that, which, makes sense to a degree, certainly. I mean, how you get around protecting private property rights and then not, I don't know. Anyways, that's, I guess, a constitutional question. But what people aren't aware of is that this is going to happen also for United States persons investing overseas. That's happening right now. The U.S. government is now promulgating regulations and restrictions for how U.S. Investors, U.S. persons, can invest overseas. Now there are going to be certain industries, certain countries that are going to be prohibited from investing in. Now, these are not full-blown sanctions, for example, like we have sanctioned, terrorist organizations or Chinese military companies or Chinese, the military organizations, things like that, or in Russia or wherever. That's already the case. Right now, it's going another level, saying that U.S. citizens will not be permitted to invest in civilian companies with no ties to military, as far as we know, in certain countries or in certain industries. And, if you do, you have to divest yourself, maybe immediately. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But it's just really unheard of. These types of rules and regulations would have been, you would have been laughed out of the room 20 years ago if you would have tried to propose this kind of stuff, telling American citizens that they can't invest their money in companies overseas that are not sanctioned, right? That are not terrorist organizations, that are not military organizations. It's just really, really bizarre, right? This type of stuff has become the go-to now for controlling capital and for controlling behavior, whether that's domestic or, overseas. And this patchwork of rules, regulations, and growing oversight by the U.S. federal government on U.S. persons, citizens, residents, and their assets and their wealth, I don't think it's going to end well. It's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. The income tax was temporary when it first started, right? Just see how temporary it has become 100 years later, right? 120 years. So it's crazy. These types of things people don't think about, they're not aware of, but all of these dots are starting to get connected. And although we may agree initially with the reason, the rationale behind why we need to restrict ownership of foreign land around military bases, it will always grow. It's going to take the next step, and now they're going to tell you where you are permitted to invest. And the next step beyond that I firmly believe is going to happen, and I know people are going to call me crazy, but let's watch this in 20 years, is that the U.S. government will start controlling how much you can send out of the country, just like China, just like Russia, just like Iran, like countries that we criticize very much for these types of restrictions on freedom, right? And this is absolutely a freedom issue. This is freedom of capital. This is freedom of movement. This is freedom of property, right? For you to be able to spend and utilize your property that you've earned in a manner that you see fit will not exist very likely in the future as we know it. You won't be able to go and buy and send money overseas. I don't believe that. I don't think that's going to be the case that the U.S. government will let you do that. And it may not be that maybe they will heavy-handed prohibit it at the outset. That's not likely the route they're going to take first. First, they're going to pressure the banks overseas or the countries overseas to not accept U.S. investors. That'll be a hard one because a lot of countries won't comply. They're going to want that money. They're going to want those investors. But they're going to make it very difficult for the banks, right? Banks that start accepting U.S. Remittances or investment are going to start getting black marks in the U.S. Right now, their correspondence accounts are going to be, slowed down or something. They're going to be audited, right? The Fed is going to look at their paperwork, their stuff a little closer, and their banking relationships in the United States. The correspondent banks will start breaking their relationships with banks that are non-compliant. This all happened under FATCA, right? So that was, 15 years ago or so now, where foreign banks were now required by U.S. laws to report ownership of foreign bank accounts by U.S. persons, right? That's a law too. That's been on the books for quite a while now. It all grows, right? This is just step by step by step. And these are the kind of rules and restrictions and laws that countries like the Soviet Union imposed on their citizens so that they could trap them and they could keep their property, keep their wealth in the country and not permit people to use it how they see fit, right? So anyways, that's how it's going to happen. I see it every day. It really is frightening to me. And there's just nobody talking about it. Nobody's aware of this kind of stuff except tinfoil hat folks like me. Anyways, that's my rant for today. I wanted to share it. I hope that's interesting to you. If it is, share it, like it, and reach out to me. Tell me you like it. Tell me you want more. Because we can chat. I can take a deeper dive on some of this stuff. We can chat about, the implications of sanctions on small businesses, right? Or the small businesses that are put under by sanctions and have lost business. I'm one of those people. Not that my business collapsed or went under, but I've lost business because of sanctions, right? I've had clients overseas that, one day they can't pay me, I can't do work for them, and the business is gone, right? And I have good friends who have faced capital controls, either getting their money in or out of countries. I've had very good friends, other friends who have had bank bail-ins. They've been a victim of when the bank says, your money is not your money anymore. It's our money. Thank you. And it's gone. I've got a lot of friends all over the world, and I hear these horror stories. They are real. They exist. And just because they're not happening yet in the U.S. doesn't mean it's not going to come. So anyways, if you like that, if it's interesting, engaging, tell me. We'll do more. But this guy stuff that keeps me up some nights, and just good to chat about it, see if anyone finds it valuable. So we'll see you next time.